All right, folks, my view has changed around what will be the way the catalyst will trigger the short squeeze. And let me go back to 2021, because back in 2021, when we were just entering this play, when we're just uncovering, many items, Ortez guy with the short interest, the option change, the DTCC rules, the FTCC rules, the failed to deliver, the FTDs, the payment for order flow, even what the New York Stock Exchange did in order to incentivize the market makers and the wholesalers into not using payment for order flow, none of that actually worked. And by worked, I mean none of that really pushed the share price higher than the latest high that we currently have, around $73 a share. But what was really interesting is that at some point we put so much expectations around what regulators, who has the back, who is enforcing the rules, with all of these rules being implemented by the DCCC and other agencies across the US, who is actually making sure that those rules are followed. All right. If you take naked shorting, for example, this is something that is banned. Payment for order flow, PFOF. This is something that is also banned across the globe. None of market makers in Australia, in Asia, in EMEA, all right, and in EU is actually using naked shorting. Because it's a banned practice. I mean, also payment for order flow. It's a banned practice. All right. So we had our focus on so many of these things, but the reality is we are now 12, 13 months later, and nothing has really changed according to those parameters, those drivers, those catalysts. Now, recently we had a new game changer, a dramatic change that was going to affect the entire US stock market. Because if you really think about it, the stock market is really at the core definition of the economy of the US nation. All right. This is an economy which is based on 2/3 of the consumption, meaning if the stock market falls, pretty much everything else will tend to fall. Not only nationally in the US soil, but because this is a leading nation, you can also be sure that it's going to be affected by other global markets. So there was this cancer that was bigger and kind of crawling underneath the radar since 2008, that some of these things was fixed when it comes to subprime and everything else. Now, because this is a game changer, I changed my mind around actually how the short squeeze will going to be carried on. It's not going to be, as I always said, it's going to be a mix of many different events. It can be because, the market is entering a bear territory and we have all of a sudden a 20% dip, or even higher than that, which I'm not saying it gonna happen, just saying that in the event that happens, that's something that can trigger and force the short sellers to actually cover, and that's how the share price of AMC can reach higher, all right, and go to the moon, literally. This is one way that can also happen. Another way that can happen is that, somebody can just jump in this stock, buy everything, with, a chunk of money, or, a tweet from, few billionaires like Mark Cuban or Tesla backing up AMC, and boom, you have all other people just following and increasing a buying pressure to the point where we have literally a short selling suicide. That's another way. But the rule ultimately is about something that will clean up the entire market. So what the SEC is now trying to do across the US markets and working in joint venture with other agencies, the Fed, the DOJ, the DOT, Department of Treasury, the CFTC, and a bunch of other agencies across the nation, man, it speaks volume around what is actually at stake here, right? So this is something that shouldn't be taken lightly, because if this cancer around short selling, naked shorting, which is pretty much corruption happening on broad daylight, man, it's, you are just shooting yourself in the foot. And by you, I'm talk about the government. I'm talking about, the companies that are publicly traded in the stock market and people controlling the stock market, the Fed. Based on that, because all of these guys are coming out and trying to clean the cancer, because not only these companies in the stock market, especially those short selling as a strategy, are going to be reporting for the first time ever all the activities at the end of the business day, at the end of the trading day. It used to be quarterly, it used to be yearly. Now that is changed. And another dramatic thing is the Fed is now catching up with the evolution of the technology used by these big companies, too big to fail, and also using that as a way to also get out of when the huge is too huge to pay, like what is currently happening with AMC. So the blockchain technology that is actually behind crypto, which is supposed to be the future of finance, the SEC is actually trying to introduce that into, okay, how are we going to track and make sure that these guys are following the rules and implementing the rules to make sure markets are actually fair, transparent, and everybody else, including retail investor, can continue to participate. Because if retail investor stop and pulls out, which is not that much of a crazy idea, because if you keep being screwed over years over years, I mean, at some point we'll have to pull back. You have to just, you know what? Let me check out and put my money elsewhere where I won't be screwed every single time over and over. So based on that, I really changed my view on, okay, this used to be something that we completely lost kind of faith. At some point at the beginning, we thought, okay, hey, new DTCC rule, new FTCC rule, new XYZ rule. But at some point, since we didn't see any impact, we thought it was over. But now the fact that these big regulations, it's not only specifically affecting AMC and GameStop, because who cares? Do you think the SEC really cares, or the Fed really cares about whether or not we're making money? No, not at all. But they need to maintain a level of transparency, a level of credibility, and a level of responsibility, not only to domestic investors, but more importantly to investors outside of the US. Yep. Why do you think there are so many Chinese companies getting listed in the US market? And why do you think China are cracking down crypto, or cracking down all of these other companies in growth and technology from being listed in the US? So based on that, the bottom line is it doesn't change what I believe is supposed to go and happen here. Because if you really thought that 72 is the highest AMC could reach, even if it doesn't happen when we want it to happen, it doesn't change the fact that at some point, one way or another, it's doomed for the short sellers to cover, especially in 2022 with what the Fed is about to do. So that's all, folks. Let me know in the comment section what you think, and we'll take it from there.